first week of April, I did a 6-day trip to Iceland. While I did come to Iceland mainly for the Northern Lights, Iceland unexpectedly gave me so much more, making this one of the best weeks I've spent in my life. Well, I was traveling solo, so I decided to join other tour groups instead over the course of the next week. I stayed in the north side of Reykjavik, in full view of the Esja mountain range, and the view was like something out of a postcard. The morning after my flight, I walked around Reykjavik. Everything was pretty much accessible on foot, as the city isn't exactly that huge. Down the streets, I found a mix of old and new buildings, all kinds of street art, as well as parks. Basically, I walked a loop around the city, starting from the Sun Voyager, through the streets surrounding the Hallgrímskirkja, into the city center, and back. At the Hallgrímskirkja, I entered the church's chamber and climbed the bell tower to catch breathtaking sweeping views of Reykjavik. And I dropped by the Harpa, which was a concert and conference hall. Afterward, I booked a horseback tour of red lava formations in Ruthular, which was a cluster of remnants of pseudo-craters common across Iceland. After dinner, I headed over to the central bus station to catch a bus to see the Northern Lights in a remote area. On day 2, I did a tour of the Golden Circle. The Golden Circle serves as a fantastic introduction to what Iceland has to offer. It goes through a number of natural wonders including Þingvallavatn National Park, Guttafoss, and the Húsavíkurgötu area. On our way to Þingvallavatn, one of the most interesting things that I've noticed is that the landscape changes dramatically every 20 to 30 minutes. For one moment, the landscape is covered with snow, and then greenery in the next. This is pretty much a recurring theme for my road trips in the coming days, where the scenery would change completely every couple of miles. Þingvallavatn, our first stop, is an important historical and natural location. Located here is the world's oldest parliament, established in the 900s, and it's also the site of one of the few places in the world where the rift between the North American and the Eurasian plates is visible. Next, we headed over to Guttafoss, a canyon waterfall. It's also known as the Golden Waterfall, as it takes a golden color on a sunny day. The waterfall is fed by Langjökull, a long glacier that you can see from afar. Afterward, we went over to Húsavíkur Valley, where we got to see a geyser park. On my way back to my accommodation, I managed to catch the Northern Lights again before getting some shut-eye. On day 3, I did some whale watching. We first set out from a historic harbor towards Akranes, a small town up north of Reykjavik. The area is also known as Hvalfjarðarsveit, or Whale Fjord, due to the whale activity there. Soon, we got to see our first sight of humpback whales. On day 4, I went on the tour of the south coast of Iceland. I visited places such as Seljalandsfoss, Skógafoss, Reynisfjall Black Sand Beach, Vik, and Jökulsárlón Iceberg Lagoon. Along the way, we saw breathtaking views, Icelandic horses, as well as dome-ray churches standing out in contrast to the landscape. So, for our first stop, the Seljalandsfoss waterfalls area is fed by Eyjafjallajökull, a glacier atop a volcano with the same name. This volcano is well known to be the volcano that erupted in 2010, causing a huge disruption to European aviation. There is an area around the falls where you can walk around behind the falls to get a different view. However, due to icy conditions, this was closed. Just a 5-minute walk from this waterfall, there is a hidden waterfall called Glufave, which makes for a very nice photo spot. Afterwards, we headed over to Skogafoss, which is one of the largest waterfalls in Iceland. Next up was the Reynisfjara black sand beach. The sand is black due to volcanic activity when hot lava cools to form black sediments. Nearby, we headed to Vik, a small but important town for ships due to its location in the middle of the south coast. Next, we made our way to Jökulsárlón Iceberg Lagoon through Iceland's largest desert. This was where the landscape completely changed every 30 minutes. There was a grassy plain, there's no covered level field, and a black sand desert, and these rotated and shuffled every now and then. At Jökulsárlón Iceberg Lagoon, we first made our way to Diamond Beach, where the residue of icebergs from the lagoon would get pushed back to the beach by the wave, creating this blue ice-lined beach. We then walked upwards towards the lagoon itself. It was strewn with icebergs of different sizes, separated from Vatnajökull, Europe's largest glacier. This is possible due to the effects of global warming, with the lagoon growing in size every year. On day 5, I went on the tour of Snæfellsnes Peninsula, which was on the west coast of Iceland. The key places that we visited here were Kirkjufell Mountain, Lóndrangar, Buðarkirkja, Ytri Beach, and Grytubjarg Cliffs. We faced strong winds and snow, unfortunately, and the visibility got really bad, and the roads were unsafe for driving. After Kirkjufell Mountain, we headed over to Lóndrangar, where we had views of the ridged coastline. We then paid a visit to Buðarkirkja, also known as the Black Church. The church was painted in tar, giving it its black color. Next, we went to Ytri Beach, where there was a colony of seals. The seals were pretty shy, so most of them would lie on the rocks far away from the shore. Finally, we visited Grytubjarg Cliffs, which was a long line of basalt columns. So they say that one of the few things that you have to do in Iceland is to go on a hike. So on day 6, I booked a hike on one of the glaciers on the south coast of Iceland called Sólheimajökull, or Home of the Sun Glacier. This glacier is part of a larger glacier called Mýrdalsjökull, which sits on top of Mount Katla, which is an active volcano that is long overdue for an eruption. This hike was one of the best experiences that I've had here in Iceland, and it's something that I would recommend many to do. So that was all I did in Iceland, one of the best experiences that I've ever had in my life, and it's something that you should experience too.